Hi, Dr. Angela here, and I'm with the amazing Jen Long. And we're talking today about self-care. Self-care is such a buzzword. And we're going to ask Jen, what in your wisdom really is, like, what really truly is self-care?
Great question. Great question. Yeah, self-care is something that we see a lot of, sort of in social media, Pinterest. Pinterest is a great place to get some ideas for self-care. It actually is a great place to get ideas for self-care because there's such a vast collection of ideas that people have brought together for it. So it is truly a great place. But basically, in essence, like self-care is really listening to what you need to give yourself the care that you need. So, what is it that makes your heart sing? What is it that helps you feel comforted, like a warm hug? What is it that relaxes you when that's what you need? And those are the things, that's self-care. So it looks different for everybody. For some people, it might be the traditional, suggestions of, you know, take a yoga class or make a bubble bath. And it might be those things, but it might also be put on your comfiest pajamas and make yourself a cup of tea and sit on the couch. It might be that, or it might be, go for a walk outside and really just ground your feet, your energy into the earth. It might be calling a friend. It might be reading a book. It might be cooking an awesome sandwich. Like it's so, the point is that you're really tapping into, what do I need? What is it that my heart needs? It's really tapping into your own inside information, your own compass, your own heart, to find out what it is that you need to care for yourself. So
Wow, so it sounds to me like self-care, there's no recipe. There's no
no,
recipe book, there's no prescription that I could write.
Yeah, I really do think that we do. I think we do it naturally. Like, I think we just do things for ourselves, but like when we need to, without thinking about it. And so, like, when someone says self-care, it feels so foreign because it's like, well, what do you mean? What is it? But it's like, we naturally do these things. We especially naturally do these things when we're sick. So, like, when we've got the flu, like when you've got the stomach flu, especially, and you just, you're literally taken moment to moment sometimes, but you're giving yourself all those things that you need just to get through those moments. And sometimes it's sleep. Sometimes it's, a little sip of ginger ale. Sometimes it's just quiet, dark room. So that's when we're really giving ourselves the best self-care, is when we're, stuck at home with the stomach flu. But because we're tapping in, we're really tapping in, we're vulnerable, right? We're so vulnerable in those moments. So we're just trying to get through that difficult challenge. And we really listen to what it is our bodies are telling us, the wisdom that's coming through in those moments.
Wow, so I heard you say that within our vulnerability is where we can access some of our wisdom.
Yes.
That's amazing and beautiful.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for pulling that nugget out.
You're welcome.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm just letting that sink in for a second, because that really is what it's all about. I mean, it's really sort of, and we kind of think of that vulnerability as our heart, right? I think people I talk to anyway, often it's sort of like that love stuff, and that's sort of where we feel most vulnerable, or the emotions, and that's often like people kind of liken their emotions to coming from their heart center, and it really does. And so, yeah, it really is tapping into that wisdom that permeates out of us through our heart. And yeah, thanks for pulling that out. Yeah. I was doing some reading, and just to talk a little bit more about the heart, I can't remember the author. It might have been Greg Braden, but made the comment about how our heart is actually a second brain, and it has so much more knowledge and insight than we ever really have understood or give it credit for. And that just really resonated with me, because we think of our wisdom comes from, like, if we're looking at a body part, we think of it coming from our actual brain right on the top of our head. But really, that's just the place where I think sort of the words form But from a felt sense, that wisdom comes from deep within our heart. So there is so much knowledge inside of our hearts that we kind of just shut off from. We shut off for a reason, right? There's been reasons why we put the walls up and, put the armor and around our hearts. But that's really where a lot of that wisdom comes from.
Yeah, the felt sense. Sense, because life can be brutal.
Yeah.
And we feel pain.
Mm-hmm.
We feel joy, and we're easy. Like if we can access joy and we can be mindful within joy, or love, that's maybe accessible to us. That's great. Self-care with regard to honoring all of our emotions. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. It's so important to be able to do that. So that really is the greatest self-care. Really, allowing those emotions to come forward, allowing to create space for those emotions, the difficult ones, the ones that are all fear-based. The way that I've been working with emotions for quite some time. I've been working with emotions for, over 17 years professionally, but of course many more before that because we all carry them. But within this last, this great pause that we've all been in, I've really had a chance to sort of dig a little deeper, and I've come to understand that emotions are really, there's only two, and then the rest are just variations of those two. So there's, on one end there's love, and on the other end there's fear, and all of the other emotions that we experience are just variations of those. So because when you sort of pull away the layers of something like frustration, right, that would be a fear-based emotion, you start to realize that really you're frustrated because at some point, it whittles down to, I'm afraid of this, or what if this, and what if I'm not good enough, or what if I get this wrong, what does that say about me? So it really becomes a fear-based emotion, and it's so when we create space to allow those things to come up, it just allows the emotions to be cleared. So cleared from our body, cleared from our awareness, and that's what we need to do. We need to create space for that.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm going to speak more about that. Sorry.
Go for it. This is so intriguing.
So, okay. I just kind of had a rush of thoughts, and I got a little scattered there.
I can almost see the download happening.
Yeah, I was like, oh, okay. So I want to speak more about experiencing and allowing our emotions to come up, because really that's what we're here in this place and time for. We've all come to Earth to experience our emotions, and that's what's so amazing about being here, is that this is the place where we've been gifted so many, and we're here to experience them fully. So whether that is, all the love stuff, all the joy, all the sensuality, all the, creativity, all of that great stuff, or whether it's all of the, the fear, the anger, the sadness, no matter, what it is that you're feeling, they're so rich. They're so full of intensity. When you sit in that emotion, you feel that feeling intensely, and it's, as scary as that is for both sides, because sometimes love is scary, it's a really lovely gift to be able to feel them. I've felt all of them. I'm not trying to minimize how difficult it is to feel, the depths of those fears, the intensity of that anger, sadness, guilt, loss, shame, all of it. I felt all of it, and I continue to work through those feelings. But when you kind of zoom out and look at it and be like, wow, we really, in this time and place, we really have been gifted something pretty intensely miraculous. It's just learning how to sit with it. It's learning and allowing ourselves to sit with those emotions so that they can be fully felt and experienced. And when you do that, when you fully allow it to be felt, experienced, and you hold the intention of doing that, and this is the key thing, when we hold the intention of feeling the feeling, we're in control of it. Because often what really gets people fearful, and myself too, I still experience this sometimes. I have to switch back into this idea of like, hold that feeling with intention. When it just kind of emerges and you don't, it just kind of, it's upon you and you're feeling all this intense, we'll just do the fear stuff, because I think that really is probably the easiest for everyone to experience, especially right now. It's so overwhelming. It just kind of, you feel it in, like, it's so visceral, like you feel it in every part of your body. And it feels like it just kind of comes out of nowhere and it takes over. But if we can flip the narrative in that moment, if you have enough clarity before you get to what I like to call like a 10 out of a 10, if you can kind of come at it at like a 6 or a 7 out of 10, you got a little bit of wiggle room before it takes completely over your body. You can flip the narrative and understand that it's really holding that intention of allowing the emotion to come up and come out of your body. And it's really about letting go of the emotion. But holding the intention of letting it go keeps us in control. So
Wow.
it doesn't let the emotion take over. Because now we're saying, okay, I see you, emotion, and now I'm going to let you come up and out of me, and I'm going to let you go. Which is so different than it saying, like, bam, here I am. You're just like,
And you're doing dishes and you're like, whoa!
yeah, exactly, yeah.
Or you're triggered in the car by a
Yeah.
song, or somebody says something.
Absolutely, yeah.
And you're like, I gotta get out of work here, I gotta go home.
Yeah.
Because some of this stuff can be pretty humongous.
Absolutely. And I'm not trying to minimize it at all by even saying, like, let it go. Like, that process of letting go can be really intense too. Like, it can be a lot of, I like to call it ugly crying, where you're just like, it's just coming out of you. And then, then sometimes noises start to come out too. And you're just, it's intense, but it's like afterwards, that 5 minutes, that 10 minutes after, there's a shift that happened. It's quite an amazing shift. And there's just this feeling of like lightness, and there's more room for light and joy and love to come in. So it's pretty.
I can identify
awesome
with that. It's, and I gotta really paraphrase. I gotta frame this in the way that some things just are not ready to come out. So there's really no. It's not about forcing it.
No.
Because there's some things that we're just not ready to face. But I can identify with the idea of physical pain taking over me, and it's always on my days off. My body lets me work. If there's something important to do, I will have the function to do it. But once in a while, you get this headache and this stomach pain, and you're just like, oh, and it won't go away until you embrace it. And I've learned, but I'm so grateful to have the knowledge, because otherwise it would be so scary, and probably the pain wouldn't even come, really, because I'd be too scared of it, and then my body would just store it for me.
Right. Great.
Right?
Yes. Beautiful. Yes. Our body stores it for us. Yeah.
It does.
Sorry to interrupt you. You're really saying some beautiful stuff, but yeah.
Yes, it does. And because that's why some people just can't be touched or hugged. Or some people just can't have work done on them, or otherwise it's a great big huge. I remember the first time I had acupuncture on my lungs in traditional Chinese medicine. That's a grief area, and I got the acupuncture point in the lungs, and the class was over, and I just ran. I ran out to the trails, and I sat and I just cried.
Yeah.
And I thought, God, that's really, like, that actually happened. And years later now, to have the ability to go, okay, body, okay, I'll do this with you. And you are in control, but it's really ironic, because you're making that choice to allow yourself to feel that pain so that it can come up and out of storage and be released from you. And it's ugly crying. You're right. It's ugly crying. I've puked.
Yeah.
I've actually puked. But afterwards, I always feel far more brain space. I feel stronger. I feel taller, and I feel better. And some great idea comes to me, and I feel less fear.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. But I want to go back to what you said about some things are not always meant to come out right away. You're right. You have to really, that's the thing too, like, your limits. And like, here I am telling you to let everything flow. And I truly believe that. But I also believe, like I said before about self-care, is that you have to listen to your body, to your guidance inside your compass. You know, if it's not a good time and place, like if you start to have a few tears and you know that you're like, because you're in the car driving to work, and then you know, like in 2 minutes you're going to be at your destination, you've got to put on your professional hat and then, you know, start your day at work. Like, that's not a great time to start to let your emotions flow. So what you do is you intentionally park it. So you say, you know, you acknowledge that feeling and you say, okay, I'm not going to push you back down inside of myself. I'm going to park you. I'm going to park you for when there's a better time. And it doesn't necessarily mean that the better time is on your lunch break or at the end of the day. I mean, it could be, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it is. But the idea is that you're acknowledging it, so you're not repressing it. You're not putting it back in. And it's okay. You don't have to go digging around for stuff. Like, things will come up as they're meant to.
If you say yes, at least if I say yes, it eventually will come up.
Yeah. But it comes up when it's meant to. It kind of, you know, and that's when, like, those synchronicities start to happen. Like, the universe really is holding you. Is that those things will come up, and then maybe it's something that's related to having confidence in yourself, and then an opportunity comes and presents itself, and all of a sudden you have the confidence to say yes. And so it's that. It's like the universe kind of, it holds you, you know. It's like we're here with a great plan. So it's there is a time and place and space. But yeah, it's because we do have functional lives, right? Like, we have practical things we have to do. We have functional things we have to do. And so, you know, in those functional moments, that's not the best time, perhaps. I mean, it might be like, well, now's the best time. Sure, why not? Like, there's no other time. So, okay. And you make the space for it to happen, you know, sneak off to the bathroom or go sit in your car, go for a walk, and allow that stuff to come up and out. And maybe that actually clears for the rest of your professional day or productive day to go even better. But it may not be the right time. And that's, again, when you tap into that internal compass and figure that out for yourself, whether it's okay. But it's okay to park that. So I often think of it as, like, I pull off like this little stick person of myself and, like, I'm going to put you aside over here for a moment because I'm in the middle of doing something and I can't focus on that right now. But it's like, I'm not pushing it back down in. It's physically sort of parking it over here. So.
Beautiful. Okay, I think we'll end this video for now, and stay tuned. There's more coming.
Yeah. Thanks.